They're brand new on this planet. They need us to guide them and to show us, and we cannot expect them to know how to do things or to, get on our agenda right away. They're living in the present moment. They are, Dr. Shefali talks about them being our little gurus of being in the present moment, and that is what we need to kind of put aside our ego and really help them and connect with them.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 143. Today, we're talking about how to simplify with Montessori at home with Jeanne-Marie Paynel. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Fields, Mindful Mama Mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate calm in their daily lives and to create more peace and cooperation in their families. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I'm the author of the upcoming new book, Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Welcome back. So glad to be with you here today. Glad to be in your ears. Glad to connect. If this is your first podcast with First Mindful Mama podcast, I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for choosing this podcast. And I promise you this is going to be a fabulous episode. In just a moment, I'm going to be sitting down with Jeanne-Marie Paynel, founder and CEO of Voila Montessori, a Montessori parenting mentor and home consultant. And she guides expectant parents, caregivers, and parents of young children to prepare their homes and themselves for their children to thrive during the first years of her life. And she gives talks locally and internationally where she combines her three passions: Montessori, conscious parenting, and positive discipline. And you're going to get so much out of this conversation. I mean, really, it's pretty amazing thinking about the power of Montessori. And I love talking about this because this is something that's been powerful in my own life, which you'll hear in this conversation. Come sit down with me as we talk about how children are way more capable than we give them credit for, and how children have a natural desire and curiosity to learn that we can really tap into. And I love that we should stop interrupting our children when they're absorbed in play. So there's a lot of great takeaways here. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to let you know that I'm having great conversations now, talking with women, enrolling women in my Mindful Mama transformation coaching groups that are starting in January. I'm so excited to welcome these people because it really takes you through a path over 5 months and with all the personal support you need to get from feeling irritable and frustrated almost at a daily basis to feeling calm and confident and really being able to enjoy this experience of motherhood. It's hard because we feel like I've accomplished so much. I should be able to handle this. And then parenthood can really bring you to your knees. So this is the group. This is the support you need when you've decided that these relationships are worth it, to take it to the next level, to really get that personal, intimate support that you need. And we take the best of mindful parenting, and it's an amazing experience. I invite you to check out what other people have said about it. But if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you. So I'm having these conversations now. I'd love to talk to you. So talk to me, reach out, and you can check out more about the groups at mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. That's mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. And now on to this episode. Jeanne-Marie, welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. I'm so glad you could be here.
Well, it's a delight to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And I've known about your work for a little while, and some of my listeners know that I'm kind of a Montessori nut. I love Montessori. But maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what is Montessori and why is it so special and different?
So, well, I'm a nut about Montessori too, as you know. I founded Voila Montessori, which is my business, about 7 years ago, to do exactly that, to share the passion with families worldwide. And because I think it's just valuable information that is needed for parents from the very beginning. So I work with expectant parents all through the age of 6. But Montessori itself was created by a woman, first of all, which that's pretty awesome in itself. Maria Montessori, more than 150 years ago in Italy. Maria Montessori was the first woman allowed to go to medical school. And from her scientific education and her scientific mind, she really devoted all of her work to understanding really human development. And that to me is the beauty of Montessori. It is really more than just an educational method, which is what it's mostly known for. For me, it's really a way of life, and it's really a way of understanding human development, and more importantly, our children's human development and how we can be of support and guide them. And so, in a nutshell, Montessori education is really this education that is based in the profound knowledge that children are, first of all, way more capable than we give them credit for, and highly intelligent human beings, and that they know within themselves what they need to learn, and that they have this really desire and curiosity to learn about their surroundings and what's going on around them. And it's really giving them the tools to adapt to their time, place, and culture with ease. And that's really the beauty of it, because it's really knowing that we all have this really profound intrinsic need to just learn and to adapt to our time, place and culture. And that if we are given the opportunity to do that on our own rhythm, in our own time, with our own sequence, then we are just, opening up to so much possibilities. And so it's really about being a child-led education. So we're really following the child, and that's a motto in Montessori education is follow the child. And that is, the educator is really trained to be able to really sit back and observe and be able to just nudge or guide that child, because we see what they're curious about that day and what they're wanting to learn about. So we're going to really create very individual lesson plan. It's not a lesson plan where, all 30 children are going to learn the same thing that day. We're really need to be very present and mindful and really observe each child as a new child each and every day. It's tough, but it's beautiful. Excuse me?
I love that. Yes.
Yes, and it's true, and it is work, because you have to let go of, your preconceived ideas of what, a child that age should be doing or not doing, and really be open to what their needs are. So that would be really the main principle, is this notion that it's really child-led, that it's not adult-centric. It's not one adult, telling all these children what they need to learn. It's really the child saying, help me to learn it by myself. And that's the beauty of it. So there's that. There's also one aspect of it that I love, is this notion of mixed age groups, where we're not separating children by their birthdays. We're really kind of grouping them in kind of developmental windows. Montessori talked about the 4 planes of development, which are these 3-year windows where children have a certain way of learning. And so the environment is adapted for that. And it's beautiful for the social interaction too, because as you know, when you have, a family with children of different ages, well, they're going to help each other and they're going to look up to the older ones, and the older ones is going to, help with the younger one. And that's the beauty in that mixed age classroom, is that you really see that, and you really see the children interacting with each other and helping each other and all of that. And then another big point is this notion of not interrupting our children. Unfortunately, in our society today and in more of the traditional education, we tend to think that we need to keep children on this, schedule of telling them what to do every 20, 30 minutes. And, you've got to change activity. Okay, time to clean up, go do this, go do that. When Montessori is really about what we call uninterrupted work cycles, because we really want to let the child be in their flow, be in this place where they know that they have enough time in front of them to do an activity, to repeat the activity if that's what they're called to do, and to repeat it as many times as they need to master it, because we know that it's, through repetition that the child really learns. And so it's really, to me, it's just, like I said, it's a way of life, because it's really very respectful of how we know human beings learn, and especially our children. So that's in a very quick nutshell, but those are kind of the main points that I really gravitate towards, and also, transfer it into the family life and the home life as well.
I think you say it really beautifully, Jeanne-Marie. And for me, as a parent of kids in Montessori, ever since they were 18 months old, both my girls have been in Montessori, and the experience that I've had is totally underlines everything you say. Like, our children are way more capable than we give them credit for. I remember my oldest daughter, Maggie, coming home, and she was in a 2-year-old in a classroom and saying, yeah, well, we scrambled eggs today.
Exactly.
And I'm like, what? You scrambled eggs? Like, wow.
Yeah.
And all of these things they would do, it was amazing what they're capable of. And as a parent, what Montessori showed me was that I could also make things, fostering their independence was a really good thing.
Yes.
And I could do all these things around the house to foster their independence. And I think that's something you help parents with. But I remember screwing the little coat hangers hooks way down low so they could hang up their coats by themselves when they got home, and all of these different things. And you know what you say about, I guess, as my experience as a parent is something like, well, what I've seen is that desire and curiosity to learn has never been squashed in them.
Yes.
They always have that. And they love going to school. They enjoy going to school. It's fun for them. My daughter gets kind of sad. My oldest daughter gets a little sad around summertime, actually. But that desire to learn is constant, and they're really, really creative. It's really, really beautiful to watch.
And you bring up a good point, because also one of the kind of cornerstone of Montessori is this idea of preparing the environment for them. So it's really about preparing the environment so that they can adapt to their time, place, and culture with ease. We welcome them into a very adult-centric environment. And, even when I look at maybe photographs of, beautiful nurseries and things like that, I see it. I don't see it benefiting the child as much as it is, a beautiful environment, and the parent is happy because they've created this gorgeous, atmosphere and all of this. But when you really, really look at it from the child's perspective, you're going to want to put everything down low, just like that, coat hook you put there, because they've been watching us. They've been watching us do all these things. They just want to be doing the same thing than us, but they just need for us to adapt the environment for their needs. And their needs are ever changing, especially those first 6 years of life. So, parents sometimes kind of get a little anxious of, I actually had one dad ask me once if he needed to move. And I was like, no, you just need to adapt it a little bit. I mean, it's really, for me, it's like, welcoming a special guest into your home that just has different needs than yours. And this guest, if they're your child, is just, happens to be staying for quite a bit of time. And you're going to modify that environment as they evolve to just help them adapt and to learn what their body is capable of. So, there's this very big notion also of freedom of movement, of where, in the classroom that's translated as we don't ask a child to sit in a specific place all day long. Like they have the freedom to move, to choose to work on the floor if they want to. I had a classroom where, I had an indoor-outdoor environment. They could go sit outside, inside, at a table, on the floor, wherever they choose. And to me, it's the same thing at home. We need to make our entire home safe for their exploration, because for them to learn what their body is capable of, they need to have the freedom of movement to do so.
Yeah, I love that. And that frees us a lot from saying, no, don't touch.
Exactly. And that it's all temporary. They're not going to be crawling forever. Like that beautiful crystal bowl you have on the coffee table. Well, just put it up for a year up on a shelf, and you'll enjoy it up there. And you will be, like you say, relieved of the stress of having to say no and worry that they're going to get into something. So yes.
This is interesting because I talk to a lot of moms about, that they have the responsibility to take care of their own needs, right? That we moms have to remember that we have to take care of our own needs. And that's wonderful. That's what we've talked about a lot on the podcast. But I love what you're bringing here, which is a mindfulness and awareness of what are your kids' needs, what are their needs, and how can they, and some of these ideas that you have for helping them learn and helping them grow within the home actually make it so they're maybe more cooperative and more interested in doing chores and things like that later. Like I was checking out your blog and you have a section on kids, doing responsibilities like washing windows, watering plants, and even ironing.
Exactly. And this comes from what I was saying earlier, is that the child has this really very deep desire to learn what they've been watching us do. So they've been absorbing, and Montessori, is the one that coined the absorbent mind, which is the brain of the child. The first 6 years is a sponge that is just absorbing everything, good and bad, but everything. And that's how they're able to speak in perfect syntax, by the age of 3 and such. But they have been watching us do all of these, chores. And chores for me kind of holds a little bit of a negative connotation, but not at all for the young child. The young child sees us, brooming, dusting, ironing, whatever, and they go, oh, wow, that looks like fun. I want to do that. And so to me, that's why I emphasize so much on bring them into what you're doing, share what you are doing. When you are starting to prepare a meal and your child comes in the kitchen and you know that they want to be there, don't send them off to play and to, go do something else because, oh, mommy needs to cook dinner and it's not for you. Find something that you can share with them. Find a piece of what you're doing. And, I often say, like, for a younger child, maybe you're making a meal that involves mashed potatoes or something, an example. Give them just one potato to wash and scrub. And I always say, you might never see that potato again, but that's okay. They feel involved. They have that significance and belonging that we all strive for. And this, starts from a very early age. And if we involve them in these activities when they desire to be involved in the activity, you are setting the foundation for later on when it is more of a chore. you know that they have the skills to do it, and they will be more willing to do all of those, when they've been doing it from a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. Believe it or not, my girls were just inside putting away the clean dishes and loading the dirty ones.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jeanne-Marie, I wanted to ask you about how did you get so fascinated with Montessori? Because I was checking out your bio and we have a similar background. Like I have a degree in art, you have a studio art degree, and you were born in Tunisia. Really fascinating. So how did you get so involved in this?
So Montessori was something kind of in the back of my mind for a while. I have a brother who is 12 years younger than I am. He went to a Montessori school, so I think that's probably where I saw that in action. And I think it goes back further than that, is just my love and desire to be around children from a very young age. I'm kind of that person at social gatherings or family events where I'm on the floor playing with the kids, or I've just always been very attracted to children. When I was, in middle school, I would volunteer to go work at his daycare and things like that. So that's just always been there. And life takes you down a path. I went to college, like you, did studio arts, worked actually as a graphic designer for 20 some years in advertising, actually in France, where I met my husband, had my first child. And while I was pregnant of my first child, so this is 21 years ago, I read a book in French by Dr. Maria Montessori called, in French, it's L'Enfant, so the child, which I think in English it's The Discovery of Childhood. But it was one of her books where, and it's actually practically the only book that I read as I was expecting. And at the time, I'm dating myself, but there wasn't this whole internet of, Googling all these different things. So I read this, and the book was really about this understanding that exactly what I just shared with you, that the child comes to us knowing what they need to learn, and that it is our role to kind of get out of the way and observe and let them be our guide. And I took that very seriously, and I had a beautiful experience with my daughter when she was born, and I followed her. I mean, today, knowing what I know, there's probably things that I wouldn't repeat or, things like that. But I really did follow this beautiful little human being. And it's really not until we moved to the States, so we moved to San Diego 20 some years ago, and I had my second child. And there it was one of those, I think, I don't know if we call it midlife crisis or just an awakening or just an aha of, okay, graphic design has been great, but this is not what I want to continue doing. And that's really when I decided to look into what was really my true passion, and it was children. And I looked into the Montessori certification, and it just so happened to be that we have a international, world-renowned center right here in San Diego. And the journey started there, and it was kind of a time in your life where it was like, this is where I need to be. And I started studying, and I ended up getting a master's in Montessori education, worked in the classroom for many years, which was definitely challenging, being, a little bit older than most of the teachers, already having my children, all of this. But it was beautiful, and it was just amazing to see, really how capable children are. And then this is what led me to the work that I do today, because I realized how much the parents were asking for support and asking for questions. And it's also, for me, I came to it, my second was already 4 years old, and it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I know all of this before? And I really, really want to share this information with expecting parents, because this is such valuable information to set the foundation for, the next generation to really guide our children.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. So how would you say kind of, you were probably in a milieu of other Montessori teachers and things like that, but I'm sure you had other mom friends who were raising their kids maybe slightly differently from you. And how would you say your Montessori study and passion influence your parenting? And then maybe comparing that to, your friends.
Well, unfortunately, I feel that I was pretty isolated here, being, from France and having come here with a 2-year-old and working full time and everything. I kind of parented in my home but my Montessori training definitely influenced my parenting right away in that whole, when you say independence, one image that comes to mind when you were asking that is I remember my 4-year-old, we have breakfast together every morning, and he wanted to pour milk into his cereal bowl. And, those of you who are in the States know how big those, gallons of milk are and how heavy those are. And for a 4-year-old to do that was extremely challenging, and, it would be spills or whatever. And from, I think, being in the training at the time, I just, got up and got a little creamer and put enough milk for him in that creamer. And that was the way that I set up breakfast from that day forward for him. And the smile and the satisfaction of being able to care for oneself. Like, I can do this. And that's why I say it's really the child is just asking us, help me to do it by myself. So just that shift of, instead of saying, oh, no, you can't do that, let me do it for you. All I had to do is put enough milk in a smaller container that was manageable for him. And those are just, those seem so obvious to us, but those are just small little tweaks that we can do to really, empower our children so that they can feel that, yes, I can do this, by myself. So little things like that. But yes, definitely influence my parenting. What also, the beauty of it too, is because I did start my Montessori training when I already had an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, I was actually able to realize that I had done a pretty, damn good job so far, that I had followed the child, that I had, given them the freedom of movement. Like, I never bought any of those, contraptions or putting them in a playpen and things like that. I mean, I remember we were living in Paris in Paris, many buildings still don't have elevators, and we were on the 4th story. And with a little one and, coming home with groceries, she would ask to go on the ground, and she was still just crawling, and I would let her crawl those 4 flights of stairs. And oh my gosh, again, this joy of satisfaction and all of this. And I think, a lot of parents would say, oh no, it's dirty or whatever. It's like, let it go, wash their hands when they get up. It's like, just like follow their lead. She needed to do that to feel capable and to know what her body was capable of. So doing the training, I also realized, like, I did follow my intuition a lot, which was really about following the child.
So it sounds like there was a lot more you could say yes to. And to
exactly.
The people who are like cringing at the idea of the kid walking up crawling up the stairs, there's a lot of evidence actually now that our lives are much too clean, that kids are getting allergies and problems and all kinds of problems because they've never developed immunity to various things in life. And it's actually good for them to kind of get their hands in the dirt, etc. But yeah, wash their hands when you get to the top.
Exactly. And show them how to wash their hands, I mean, all of that is like really about having them participate in their own care from the very beginning. And this starts, at day one, at birth, of the way you communicate with your child, of letting them know what you're doing and asking permission and letting them know what you're going to do. I'm going to pick you up now. Give it a second. Let it sit with it. Be mindful, as opposed to just, swooshing them off and going and taking them to the changing table, changing them. sometimes not even talking to them and doing all of that when they need that connection and they need to know what's going on.
That's beautiful. It sounds like this level of care is beautifully, it's mindful. You're really talking about respecting the child, seeing them as a whole person, right away, seeing, them as, just having more capability and than we normally do. And I see a lot, and I was certainly guilty of this, like the way most people talk to children. When I'm out and about in the world, I'm amazed at how rude we are to children, how we bark orders at them. And I get it. Like, we're tired, we're frustrated, like our children aren't listening to us, things like that. How was your language as you were dealing with the children? How did you deal with it when you were just had it?
Well, I think it's an inside job for sure, because if we are being mindful, the children didn't ask to be here. They're not, I always say that children who are maybe, having a tantrum or not cooperating or whatever, for me, it's really always to remind ourselves that children are not purposefully giving us a hard time. They're just having a hard time. And it is our role to, take a deep breath and kind of put our own triggers and, like you say, tired, annoyance, whatever, to the side, because we are the adult here in the situation. We need to, to show a little bit more self-control and get down to their level and just, I see you're really having a hard time, or I see that you're really, busy doing this and you're not wanting to, get your coat on so that we can go, and it's time for us to go. So, it's really about the being loving, being kind, being compassionate, and still being firm and in control, because you are the captain of the ship, and you are the one that is guiding. You are the one that is setting the boundaries, because children do need us to set those boundaries. But it's just, how do we communicate that? And, when you say that you hear people talk to them in rude ways, yes. I mean, I witnessed that, either rude or just, talking to them as if they were idiots, when they are highly, highly intelligent and very sensitive and very spiritual little beings that we need, to me, show the utmost respect to these divine little beings that are so pure and so innocent. They're brand new on this planet. They need us to guide them and to show us, and we cannot expect them to know how to do things or to, get on our agenda right away. They're living in the present moment. They are, Dr. Shefali talks about them being our little gurus of being in the present moment, and that is what we need to kind of put aside our ego and really help them and connect with them. And I think that's the biggest piece, is just that connection, as opposed to wanting to go, and they don't know, why are you such in a rush, Mom? Like, I'm having a good time here. So it's just, kind of coming down to their emotional level and helping them along in transitions and such.
Breathe. I'm interrupting the podcast to invite you to imagine listening to the ocean and feeling the warm breeze on your face. Imagine seeing little monkeys and smelling the fragrance of a tropical orchid while looking out at a vista of islands and endless ocean. This will be your reality when you join me for the Mindful Mama Costa Rica retreat next April. We'll be staying in a luxurious private estate, which has a view to the beach over the rainforest canopy from every room, as well as from the yoga porch and the infinity pool. Join me and other mindful mamas, with each day designed to have a perfect balance of time for yoga, mindfulness, discussion, and free and open time, so you can either Make it adventurous. Go hiking, learn to surf, kayak through the mangroves, go ziplining or more. Or make it relaxing. Instead of adventures, relax poolside or wander down to the beach. We'll start each day with meditation and all levels yoga on the yoga porch. Every afternoon, we'll come together for guided relaxation and coaching and discussion with me. Locally sourced foods will be served at breakfast and dinner by our talented in-house chef. If you want to get away from everything and take the break that I know you deserve, join me. We have limited spots available, so now is the time to reserve at mindfulmamamentor.com/Costa Rica or email me at hunter@mindfulmamamentor.com. That's mindfulmamamentor.com/Costa Rica or email me at hunter@mindfulmamamentor.com. I can't wait for you to join me there.
Breathe.
Yeah, in mindful parenting, we talk about simplifying our schedules and simplifying our stuff.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I have a feeling you would also be advocating that with your parents and your clients. Why is it so important to slow ourselves down a little for children, simplify our schedules, and simplify our stuffs? Because the counter argument is, that parents say, it's like you've got all these wonderful options. You've got swim class, you've got tumbling, you've got music. There's all these amazing things. I want to expose my kid to everything. So tell me what you say to that.
So I say that is satisfying your needs. I'm kind of harsh this way where I say whose needs are being met here. Is it your fantasy that, maybe these are things that weren't around at your time, or that, you want to be able to say to your friends, my child is doing this, this, and that? Like, whose needs are being met when we, bring our children all sorts of places, when we have a child who's kind of an introvert and just is a homebody and is just happy playing with their blocks? Like, we have to pay attention there, I think. And then secondly, over the excess of the society that we're in of consuming just gets to be a little bit too much and overwhelming. And we have to remember that our children are brand new on this planet, that just being here is already very stimulating, of, going outside, of having sensorial experiences, of talking with you, of learning of language, of figuring out how to get up and walk and run and all of that. That's already a lot of work. So, slow it down. Let them show the interest. Let them kind of, show us what they're going to want, and follow their lead. And there's already so much that you can be doing at home of, things that you involve them, like the, activities I was talking earlier. But even if you like to put music on and dance, well, dance with them, involve them in all of that. You don't necessarily need to, get them dressed, get in a car, plan on the snack, go to a place just to listen to music and have some rhythm. Like, there's a lot of things you can do. I'm a big, advocate of some of those classes, but oftentimes it's more for the parents to come together and find their village, find their tribe, because we really do need that as parents, because we do, tend to parent in isolation. So again, if that is your need, go for it, do it, but just do one. Like, don't overwhelm yourself, because you're putting yourself in a stressful situation where, you're having to balance this whole schedule and all of this. So slow it down, look at your schedule and make sure that you're in a good place and you're doing all of this with joy, that you're, enjoying all of this. So that's one. And then the other one is, yes, I tend to be very minimalist and simple in our homes, in how we organize our physical space, because especially for the young child, order, this sense of order, meaning order in the physical sense, but also order in our routines and such. Children are extremely sensitive to this. And so we want to be able to have, routines that can be slow, that they can predict what is expected of them every day. And this really helps them have less this feeling of overwhelm, of not knowing what's going to happen. But then the physical order is really physical order, we all know, brings internal order. Mm-hmm. And the child is in a state where they are trying to make sense of their world, and they are in a state where they are classifying their world. So if we can simplify it and really have, a minimum of activities or toys out at a time, really, really helps them kind of let go of this overwhelm and this stress. And I have seen, how this affects just their behavior. The homes, I do a lot of, Skype mentoring and everything, but I also do for local families, I go into the homes, and oftentimes, I get overwhelmed with just the amount of toys and activities and everything. So I can only imagine what, a little person in that little body is feeling with just too much to choose from. And then, they don't know what to choose, so everything gets chosen. Then it's a big mess to clean up. And it's like, I don't want to clean up and all of this. So this is also beneficial to you, the parents, of get rid of a lot of this, distraction and overwhelm, and you will see a lot more of a peaceful, calm. The child will be able to focus and concentrate more when they have fewer things to choose from.
I can testify to that too, for sure. When I have gone through and decluttered in my children's rooms, they come home, they're so grateful, and then they play for hours. They play for hours when they're younger in these rooms that they had decluttered, even though I'd taken away like 2/3 or more of their toys. They were so grateful because exactly they had that sense of like, oh, this is a calming, orderly space that feels good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think, you and I know that. I mean, I know for me, when, my kitchen counter is all cleared off and clean, I'm a lot happier than when there's stuff all over it, so it's the same thing. And so it's really, really important, especially for the young child who is so sensitive to order, to really just, go easy. Like, they don't need to have, all this excess. And then I also, go in deeper into like the choice of toys as well, where, I'm definitely more an advocate for natural made toys. So natural material, whether it's wood or leather or metals. I avoid, all battery operated plastic junky toys, things like that, because again, I want to really feed that insatiable curiosity and that amazing intelligence that they have. And I just feel like a lot of the toys that are out, in the stores today kind of, again, dumb our children down. They're just entertaining them. They're not really helping them learn a skill.
Yeah. And this all goes back to that intrinsic motivation that's really at the heart of Montessori. We were talking about the activities, and my daughter really had a propensity, you tell right away, because my husband's a musician. We have a piano in our house, had a real musical ability very early. And we asked her if she wanted to. And so she started taking piano lessons when she was like 4.5 years old. So young, right? But she really loved it. She really enjoyed the lessons. But then the teacher, being a traditional piano teacher, was like, she should practice 10 minutes a day, just doing the E song or whatever. She ended up doing piano for about maybe a year and a half. But I remember I bugged her about her doing her practice and things like that, because what you're talking about requires a level of trust and following the child, like a level of trust and a level of letting go. And I was in that place of, I'm supposed to make my child practice. And she ended up stopping, not wanting to do piano, not hating it, but not wanting to do piano anymore because it was too much pressure.
Yeah.
And I realized, of course, kind of what I did over the years. I was like, oh, what did I do? And so then a little later, when she was 7 or so, I had read some article about how, lots of adults regret giving up their instrument when they were younger. So I ended up just having a conversation with her and talking to her a little bit about what I read and saying, I think you really had a propensity towards piano. And if you really want to do it and love it, it could be totally your thing. And I won't bug you to practice. And whether you practice or not, I don't really care. It can be totally up to you. If you want to do it, we'll pay for you to do piano lessons again. So she did. And she's been doing it ever since. She loves it. Now she practices herself on her own. I never ask her. It was really interesting to see for me in my own life, that example of like sort of not following the child, that outside in, that extrinsic motivation that I was giving her, right? That really just crashed and failed miserably. And then allowing her to follow her own rhythm, right? Follow her own desire and curiosity, and how that has blossomed enormously. Like, she plays amazing things now. She can pick songs just out of the air. It's amazing.
Yeah. And that also, I think, is part of also knowing, their brain development as well. That, at 4, yes, she was very interested, but had no, concept of what it is to, practice to be better. Like that's just not something that we understand. And it's really after 6 where they have more of this reasoning mind, where you are able to have that conversation. So kudos to you for doing that, because that's wonderful now that she is, loving piano so much. Wonderful.
So for people who are interested in Montessori, maybe you can go out and find Montessori schools near you. We're here in Delaware. You're lucky enough, there's a public charter Montessori you can go to. But for people who want to take some of these ideas and concepts, besides going to your website, which we'll share, and we want people to get these resources, what are some sort of baby steps people can do to, provide their child with more independence and more involvement in what's going on in everyday life?
So depending on the age of your child, for new parents, for example, I actually tell them to get down on all 4s and crawl around their homes. So that, so it's true. It's like we have to like physically see the environment from their perspective. Yeah. To be able to be aware and to be mindful of, where they might go and where might be the obstacles too. Like if you see that your child is really motivated to wash their hands, for example, but there's no access to water anywhere, well, you've got to go out and get a step stool so that they can get to the sink and wash hands. Or if they're always, bugging you in the kitchen when you're about to make dinner, that's a sign right there that you need to be involving them. So really about following their lead is, I think, the major thing that we can do at home. I even invite you to look at where you place artwork in your home, or where you place photographs. Maybe a few of those can come down low to your child's, where their eyesight is looking. We tend to put everything up high for our visual sense, but let's bring some things down for them. So things like that, dedicating maybe a cupboard in the kitchen where they can have easy access to some of the things that they might need and such. So it's really about learning to observe, and that's a big thing that I work with the parents that I mentor, is to really be able to step back and really enjoy just watching your child, go through the motions of the day. And there you're going to be also able to detect where they might need some guidance, where they might need to be shown, again, how to fold that T-shirt that they're, struggling to fold, or things like that. It's just about stepping out of the way, but to be a scientific observer, to be an observer without judging or without any expectation, but just for you to take a mental note of this is where I'm needed to guide. And then the other thing that I do like to remind parents is, how do you say, to really say something about the progress or encourage the progress and not always the result. Like I really saddens me to hear good job so much. It's like it becomes a very kind of shallow statement with no empowering of the child. It's really about, wow, that looked like it was really difficult. You really, pushed through. That's great. That's it. It must feel good to you. So really bringing it back to that intrinsic value that they have, that, I feel that we are creating a generation of reward junkies where more and more children are just wanting to be told good job as opposed to doing it for what it makes them feel like. So just being aware of our language, I think, is another thing that would be very important.
Thanks. I love that. Jeanne-Marie, it's been lovely to talk to you. Can't wait for people to check out what you're doing and where all the different resources they have. Get your kids started. Your 3-year-old started ironing and more. Where can people find out more about you?
So I do have a website called Voila Montessori. So VOA Montessori.com. And I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, under the same handle, Voila Montessori. I also have a pretty extensive YouTube channel where I share all of those different activities in very short 2-minute videos to really show you how to present. And I've tried to film everything from the child's perspective so that you can see the importance of slowing down your movements and to, stop talking when you're showing your child something, because we tend to over-explain things, and children just need us to slow down and show them how to do things for themselves.
So wonderful. Jeanne-Marie, I just want to thank you for showing up and doing this work and bringing the magic of Montessori to so many people who may not have access to it, bringing it into their home. My family has benefited so much from what we've learned from my children going to Montessori. And the way you're sharing it, it really does a great service to the world. And you have such a compassionate presence, like a real groundedness and wisdom that I really appreciate you bringing to us and sharing with all of us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hunter. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. I love Marie and I love what she brings to the table. Montessori is pretty amazing. But you can take some of these into your regular life. You can take some of these principles of respecting the child and all of these into your regular life. It really is possible. And in fact, the work that I do sometimes with moms is really grounded in Montessori because it's been such a big part of my own life and my children's life. And I just want to remind you before we go that I am enrolling now for my Mindful Mama transformation coaching groups. They're starting in January. And it's a small, intimate group where we do that work of becoming a mindful mama. And this is not for you if you are a spare the rod, spoil the child kind of parent, but this is for you if you would like to create cooperation from the inside out, if you want to feel calm and confident, if you want to have great relationships, not only with your child, but also with your partner. So I invite you to check that out now. Don't wait, because I'm enrolling people now at mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. That's mindfulmamamentor.com/group coaching. So that's it for this week. I hope in the US you had a good Thanksgiving. And remember, we've got that holiday survival guide episode from last week. Should you need some support in the upcoming holidays and how to simplify and how to make it be less chaotic and more joyful, I will be doing all those same things myself. Yeah. I'm wishing you a beautiful week. I really appreciate your ears. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I love that we get to have this time together, and I really appreciate that you take this time to spend with me. So have a beautiful week, my friend. Namaste. Thank you to DJ Taz Rashid for this wonderful song, Inspiration Drive. Go ahead and download his album, Live in Love, on Apple Music or on Spotify or wherever you listen to music.